Welcome back to another episode of Exploring Shasta County History. I'm your host, Jeremy M. Tuggle. Today out here at a very historic site, I'm on the original Shasta to Wairika Trail, which actually connected with the Waugh's Ferry, a ferry that actually dates back to 1851 here in Shasta County on the Sacramento River. And today we're on the east side of the river in the Old Diggings Mining District. And at the only plaque with the history, I'm going to read the plaque. It actually says, "You are crossing the historic Shasta-Wairika Road. This road, used by wagon and stage coaches from 1851 to the turn of the century, connected Shasta with the upriver communities of Buckeye, Turntown, and Quartz Hill, and the Old Diggings Mining District." Now, keep in mind, there was also the town of Old Diggings here, which was at the end of Walker Mine Road, what is now present-day Walker Mine Road. This road, the Shasta-Wairika Trail, crossed the Sacramento River nearby at Waugh's Ferry, just above the nearby Ribbon Bridge, where ramps and mooring pins can still be found. We will also try to locate those ramps and mooring pins and see if they still exist. Eventually, this road connected with the California Oregon Trail that continued north to Wairika and beyond, and south to Sacramento. This trail was a primary route of commerce, exploration, and transportation. Little use of this road occurred after the later decades of the 19th century. This plaque was placed by Bureau of Land Management, BLM, and the photos were used from the archives of the Shasta Historical Society in Redding. Now, in the abandoned mine video that I have here at the same location, you have seen this plaque in that video. So this is the historic Shasta-Wairika Trail. It actually connected to the ferry, this road here. Hopefully we find those mooring pins and ramps of the ferry if they truly still exist today. Alright, let's get going. So I believe the mining site over here actually use this road as well. That's looking across on the same road to the west side of the Sacramento River. Now here it kind of looks like it branches off. I'm pretty sure this is the ferry road over here where I'm pointing, going down to my left. And they may have had another road going to that mining property, going to the right there. You can kind of see that clearing through the horehound that's there. That water you're hearing is from a seasonal creek over here. Today I'm also filming for my friends at Redding Buzz on Facebook and Instagram. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to them. Follow, like, comment, share, as well as my social media sites. So you got kind of two routes here. I believe to our left here is the Ferry Road. And then to our right, see how it kind of intersects? I believe that's the road to this abandoned mine property over here. But this is the actual ferry road. Now you can really see the road coming into view here. So, looks like that might have been a good spot for a ferry right down there. And the road came on up, connected here, and went on up that way, east side of the Sacramento River. Okay, with a little luck, your historian found the actual mooring pin on the Sacramento River. Which is at this location, this area here, and over there where Robert of California Unearthed is standing, he's waving to you. This is where the ferry would have connected on the east side of the river. And I've looked over here for a second mooring pin that they would have tied it to. I just haven't found it. I'm thinking it might be lower in the water, in the rocks over on that side maybe. Not quite sure. The one I found in the rock is pretty, it might be larger than it looks, but the head of it is pretty small.
I'm standing right where the ferry was abandoned.
So this is the cove. And keep in mind, 100 years ago, none of this vegetation would have been here. Waugh would have definitely had this area cleared, and the ferry road, wagon road, went right up alongside this creek. Got a little bit wet there, but not too bad. So, where Robert is standing, that is the old road right here. See that greenery with the sandy ramp over there on the west side? That's where the connecting part on the west side of the ferry went. You got two mooring cable support beams on the west side, zoning in at a triangular point to this cove here. And based on that, that is how I found this mooring pin. Now, the old roadway, Robert's blocking it. Say hi, Robert.
Hi, everybody. Get out of the way here.
Alright. So keep in mind, all this would have been cleared. The wagons went straight on up through here. And right in the mist, this is where they would have tied off the ferry boat at this mooring pin, which is still here, embedded into the rocks. There's a triangular cut, almost perfect 90 degrees, and it's hammered right in there. And that would have tied down the ferry at this location. Perfect 90-degree cut into the rock. Triangular. Giving this mooring pin its 15 minutes of fame. This is chasing Shasta County history. Truly remarkable spot. You can tell this thing's been hammered when it was forged. Definitely old school blacksmith style. That is the mooring pin that held Waugh's ferry. The wagon road went right on up through this side where the vegetation is now. I don't know if you can see Robert back there. I'll try to get up above it. But there's Robert's shadow. He's waving. The wagons would have came up right in through this vegetation. Waugh would have had it cleared. Came right on up here. And now we're on the ferry road on the east side of the river. Keep in mind, a lot of this has shifted over the years, so the terrain has changed. Definitely has changed over the years. And I'm thinking it went up on top of the rocks and went that way. So in the midst of going up this side in the rocks, I found another either mooring pin or tie down, but there's no loop, no hole in it. It's iron, but it is right here where this horehound is. And as you can see, there it is. On October 14th, 1851, the Shasta County Court of Sessions granted a ferry license to Eugene Wright and Otis Seaman to operate a ferry across the Sacramento River 100 yards south of the mouth of Spring Creek. They called this watercraft the Wright Ferry, and it was a successful business venture by them. Then, in 1852, Wright and Seaman sold out to William Potter Jr., and Potter changed the name of this ferry to Potter's Ferry, which was then located at Spring Creek. Potter then relocated his ferry below the mouth of Rock Creek on the Sacramento River near Middle Creek, north of the present-day site of the Ribbon Bridge. Kilna was a nearby settlement at the mouth of Middle Creek, which was first settled in 1852, and later that year the United States Postal Service headquarters in Washington, D.C., established a United States Post Office there on November 10, 1852, with William Potter Jr. as first postmaster, due to this settlement's flourishing population. This is the exact same location where the future townsite of Waugh, also known as Middle Creek, would be established. The town of Kilna boomed overnight, and yet, just as quickly as the town site emerged out of nowhere, it faded into becoming a footnote in history. On October 27, 1853, the United States Postal Service headquarters in Washington, D.C., discontinued Kilna's United States Post Office. William Potter Jr. was the last and only postmaster at this locality. The town of Kilna declined in population, and it became deceased just as quickly as it emerged. Potter sold his ferry to Joseph Waugh in 1855, who began operations at that location. However, Waugh referred to this ferry as formerly known as the Wright's Ferry instead of Potter's Ferry, which discredited Potter's ownership in the local media. Yet local records indicate that this is the same ferry at that location. In 1853, William G. Moody and Charles Wood established a ferry after the Shasta County Court of Sessions granted a ferry license to them just south of Spring Creek as well. They began operations that year. However, there was a law at that time which forced ferries and bridges to be a mile apart from each other, even though the license was granted for them to use that area. On October 4, 1854, William Weatherlow followed suit of the above ferryman and applied for a ferry license under the Shasta County Court of Sessions, who heard testimony and granted his application that day for him to operate a ferry at the same location as the previous ferries above. His ferry was granted for 1 year of public service and on direct orders that he would follow a bond in the sum of $2,000, which Weatherlow paid in full, and Weatherlow only operated this ferry for 1 year until Moody and Wood, as well as Weatherlow, each quit or sold out to Joseph Waugh, which is how Joseph Waugh acquired their ferries since purchasing Potter's Ferry in 1854, while having seniority in ferry operations before their ferries existed due to the establishment date of Potter's Ferry. Joseph Waugh was a native of Ireland who was born March 29, 1823. He had resided in Shasta County since 1851, when he acquired Potter's Ferry from William Potter Jr. It was then located below the mouth of Rock Creek on the Sacramento River at a place called the Narrows, where the Sacramento River channel narrowed. After Waugh purchased the ferry, he seemed to have discredited Potter for formerly owning this ferry, as he mentioned in the local media that it was formerly known as Wright's Ferry. Joseph Waugh then applied an application towards the district judge of the 9th Judicial District of the state of California for a license to keep a coal ferry in operation in November of 1854, and on December 9th, 1854, the application was granted on a bond filed at $2,000 with a license fee of $6 per month, which was paid for by Waugh's elder brother, James Waugh, on Joseph Waugh's behalf. It became a thriving business venture for the younger Waugh sibling. In 1858, Joseph Waugh was plaintiff in a legal battle in the Shasta County Superior Court against A.A. Chauncey and J.L.H. Swinford, who at that time erected a bridge across the Sacramento River, which connected the town of Shasta with Quartz Hill, and within a mile of the plaintiff's ferry at the mouth of Spring Creek. Waugh took legal action against them for damages, while the two individuals advertised in the local media about the opening of this bridge on November 18, 1858, and after that date, both parties were held up in litigations for over a year until June of 1859. During the trial, through his attorneys, Joseph Waugh asserted about the injuries this bridge made to his franchise and property, and the various irregularities in the action of the Shasta County Board of Supervisors in granting the license to Chauncey and Swinford, among other things they acted upon. On a demurrer, the Shasta County Superior Court determined that the plaintiff wasn't allowed an injunction, and the case was appealed by the court. Due to this action and the mixed powers given to the Board of Supervisors, even if it was a mistake which was made, which granted Chauncey and Swinford the right to erect this bridge. However, this bridge at Spring Creek was not surveyed, and doesn't appear to be on any historical maps of the region from that time period. So it might have been abandoned and closed off to passing traffic, so this traffic would utilize Waugh's Ferry instead. Waugh's watercraft on the Sacramento River was carried away and damaged during a horrific storm in January of 1862, which also saw the river carrying away the ferry house, which might have been on the west side of the river, where I had found a lonely square nail situated in the rocks at this location. The cable support iron mooring pins, which supported the cable to the ferry, were not affected by the flooding, nor were the iron mooring pins themselves on both sides of the river. Waugh forked out additional money to make the repairs which were needed. On August 10, 1862, in Shasta, Joseph Waugh married Mary Jane Postle, a daughter of Gabriel Postle and Mary Polly Gant Postle. It was Mary's second marriage. She first married a man named Benedict Lutz, and she eventually bore Waugh 2 children during their union. Then, in February of 1867, Joseph Waugh began building a brand new watercraft to ferry his passengers and freight trains across the Sacramento River at this location, due to his original boat getting worn out and leaky. His ferries, which he built, were quite sturdy and lasted in operation for about 12 or 13 years, until he had to replace the older one. According to the Sacramento Daily Union newspaper of February 15, 1866, it related the following about Waugh's Ferry in their North State periodical, stating, "High water in Shasta County. The Courier of February 10th says, we have been visited by one of those things in a manner of unmistakable. The gulches and streams have been filled to their full capacity, and many of them inches of high water mark in 1861, too."
On the west side of Waugh's Ferry, on the old stage road leading down to the Waugh's Ferry ramps, which are still there.
The slope at the south end of Bell's Bridge was so high on Monday and Tuesday as to prevent the crossing of the stage. Monday's stage from Tehama arrived on Wednesday. The Sacramento is booming and impassable. On Tuesday, a large tree was careening southward.
Keep in mind, a lot has changed over the last 100 years or so. So Waugh would have had all this cleared
and carried away Waugh's ferry rope, taking the supports on both sides. The rain commenced in earnest on Sunday last, and though it did not fall in great quantities, it was so warm that it carried with it vast quantities of snow on the mountains.
This is the road down to the ramp. Now when I say ramps, I mean the west side of the river and the east side of the river. Both ramps are still here. But this ramp is where this road takes us down to the west side of the river.
Monday it rained very hard. We incline to the opinion that good crops of gold, grain, and hay will be the result.
Coming across our first mooring pin.
So now we have a general possibility of when the remaining present-day Waugh's Ferry cable support iron mooring pins on the west side of the Sacramento River were placed. Another column of the Shasta Courier newspaper reported the following on February 29, 1868. Stranded. A very sudden rise occurred on the Sacramento River a few nights ago, during which one end of Waugh's ferry rope became detached from its fastening and allowed the boat to swing downstream. The current pressed the boat against the shore, and the water, suddenly receding, left it high and dry on the bank.
And this is the ramp on the west side of the river.
With considerable labor, the boat was relaunched and got back to its old position. Travel down to Waugh's Ferry from the west side of the Sacramento River to its ramp was a steep incline with a rough terrain, which made traveling difficult for wagons and stages at times, and in any bad weather-related conditions. Even on the east side of the river, there was a steep incline coming off the ferry ramp at that location.
Another mooring pin.
With a rough terrain as well. This area was prone to various wagon and stage accidents. One of those accidents was heralded in the September 11th, 1869 edition of the Shasta Courier newspaper, which related the following account. Accident. As Joseph Santee was driving a hay wagon down the hill to Waugh's Ferry one day this week, a brake gave way, and the wagons and 4 horses attached were precipitated into the Sacramento. The driver jumped off the wagon before it reached the water, broke his arm, and received a number of severe bruises. The team was drowned, and the hay floated off. Dr. Shirtliff dressed Santee's wounds, and at last accounts, he was doing well. A few years later, on May 18, 1872, the Shasta County Board of Supervisors granted Joseph Waugh the right to continue his ferry business venture as a toll ferry for the sum of $36 per year, which he paid it himself. During the year 1883, a town site called Waugh sprung up at Middle Creek, just south of the ferry site and approximately 2.25 miles west-northwest of Redding. Some of the newcomers at that time were Andrew Cusick and Robert Kennedy, who both purchased 17 acres of land in the Waugh area. At that time, the construction of the Shasta to Middle Creek Road was completed.
That creek you're hearing on the east side is that seasonal creek we were walking down,
which was also known as Middle Creek Road, and sometimes referred to as the River Road, which connected Shasta with the newly established Waugh townsite. The settlement of Waugh was situated at the mouth of Middle Creek on the Sacramento River. At the request of the merchants from the town of Shasta, they asked Joseph Waugh to negotiate with the California and Oregon Railroad to erect and establish a railroad depot on his property there. The merchants of Shasta were getting annoyed by traveling to Redding, which was the nearest railroad terminal, and they wanted to save them time on deliveries to the railroad terminal there. Joseph Waugh initiated several meetings with the California and Oregon Railroad, and they came to terms to build this depot on his property at the mouth of Middle Creek. On May 5th, 1883, Joseph Waugh deeded to the Central Pacific Railroad a right-of-way in Section 28, Township 32, North Range 5 West, for the sum of $2,125, with strict conditions which allowed the California and Oregon Railroad to continue laying its tracks north of the Sacramento River Canyon, and due to this deed which Waugh granted to the railroad, it forced him to relocate his ferry south to the mouth of Middle Creek, where he continued ferry operations. In October of 1883, Joseph Waugh purchased additional land ranging between 97 to 100 acres of land situated on Middle Creek from Colonel William McGee and Augustus Grotefend, who were both Shasta residents, for a sum of $200. Even though Waugh was the official name of the town site at this location, the California and Oregon Railroad ignored that fact and named their brand new depot Middle Creek after the creek it was situated on. Now the town site was known as Waugh and Middle Creek. The Middle Creek Depot was constructed by the railroad, After Joseph Waugh was paid by the California and Oregon Railroad to utilize his land for the depot, he hired a local carpenter from Shasta named R.H. Booth to erect a hostelry for him in 1883, which Waugh called the Middle Creek Hotel. It was another profitable business venture which catered to freight teams and travelers traveling the Middle Creek Road route, which traversed from Shasta to Waugh and crossed his ferry site at the Sacramento River just north of the present-day Ribbon Bridge, which connected with the Shasta-Wairika Trail on the east side of the Sacramento River, which headed north to Wairika. This hostelry had a grand opening date of August 18th, 1883. Now, there is some discrepancy about the extension of the Middle Creek Road to Redding route, which my friend Robert Frazier, host of California Unearthed, and I dug into deeper, and we found out that the Middle Creek to Redding extension was completed in 1884, and not in 1887 like it was originally thought. The original source claiming that 1887 was date was printed in a book called Shasta, the Queen City, by Mabel Morse Frisbee and Jean Morse Beecham, which was published in 1973 by the California Historical Society. Both Frisbee and Beecham were renowned and well-respected historians of Shasta County.
The wagon road came right in through this area, crossed over, and went south that way. And those wagon ruts are nearby that you saw in one of my former videos. Truly a historic area within Shasta County. So on this lot here, this is where the Waugh Middle Creek Hotel was.
The sources which Frazier and I discovered were located in the Free Press newspaper of Redding, one from the September 6, 1884 edition that heralded the following report. The lumber is on track for the depot at Middle Creek. This building will not be over 40 or 50 feet long, and Miss Jenny Campbell will act as an agent and telegraph operator. There is talk of constructing a road along the river from Redding to Middle Creek, which will make the distance to Shasta less than 6 miles. The second entry is from the same periodical and is found in the November 15th edition, which related the following information. The river road from Redding to Shasta via Middle Creek seems to be the popular route. It does away with steep grades and cuts off at least 1.5 miles of travel. This road should have been built 30 years ago. According to the Republican Free Press newspaper of Redding, they heralded the following column on July 5, 1884, stating Joe Waugh has ordered some lumber to build a ferry boat across the Sacramento River from his place. Business problems occurred in August of 1884 for Joseph Waugh when Shasta resident Emmanuel Lewin, a local assayer, was granted a toll ferry license at the mouth of Middle Creek by the Shasta County Board of Supervisors for a term of 20 years, on a bond which Lewin filed for $1,500, and paying a license of $36 annum. This is the same location where Joseph Waugh had been in operation since he granted the railroad right of way to the Central Pacific Railroad in 1883. Keep in mind that the law at that time forced ferries and bridges to be 1 mile apart from each other. It's not known if this move was to force Waugh to pay out more money or to purchase Lewin's ferry, or if Loon quit operations and Waugh took charge of Loon's ferry by having seniority like he did with Moody and Wood's ferry, as well as Weatherlow's ferry. Whatever the case may be, Waugh's ferry continued operations at the mouth of Middle Creek. The community of Waugh burgeoned with success, and once more around its depot and hotel. A United States post office called Waugh, in honor of Joseph Waugh, was established at this town site by the United States Postal Service headquarters in Washington, D.C. on January 5, 1885, with Joseph Waugh's daughter Annie M. Waugh taking charge as their first postmaster. Waugh and other Shasta businessmen had big plans for this new settlement, since the railroad bypassed their town years ago and stopped their construction of their tracks at Reading. Now they were hoping their town could grow and prosper once more due to a brand new railroad depot at Middle Creek. Throughout the year, the Waugh community established a Wells Fargo office, telegraph office, and a warehouse in town. On September 26, 1885, the Republican Free Press newspaper Reading heralded the following column about the Waugh Hotel. Waugh's Hotel at Middle Creek has been sold to Andy Cusick, consideration of $3,500. Andy will keep a public house and a good one. Mr. Waugh will build a residence near the mouth of Salt Creek and not far from Shearer's mine. By July 31, 1886, a local media outlet from Reading printed the following column. 2 semi-daily stages now run through town, and a semi-daily express run to north and southbound trains at Middle Creek Depot, 30 minutes from Shasta, and still some of the old bullfrogs down at Reading bellow about Shasta being an out-of-the-way place. The trouble with those croakers is that whenever they leave home, they have to foot it, unless they can bum a ride. During a raging storm, in February of 1888, Joseph Waugh lost his ferry due to extremely high water, which was valued at $40 at that time. During my research, which I conducted on this area, I found out that the Townsite of Waugh, or Middle Creek, had a school to advance the education of school-aged children. The following information about this public school can be found in the February 9, 1889 edition of the Free Press newspaper of Reading, which states, the first public school at Middle Creek opened last Monday with 12 scholars and Miss Sarah Davis as teacher. The school will be held at the present place until the end of the current, when the trustees will meet, select a site, and build a schoolhouse.
And so this is the water well of the hotel, which is still here. I don't know if you can see the rock work around it, but that is simply amazing. Middle Creek cuts in right through here and back of the property.
Evidently, this school failed, and a schoolhouse was never erected at the town site of Waugh, also known as Middle Creek. Joseph Waugh died at Shasta on March 8, 1892. He was 68 years old, and he's buried in the Shasta Union Cemetery at Shasta, along with his wife and family members. The town of Shasta was dealt with additional blows when the Middle Creek Depot was closed down by the railroad. It affected the town of Waugh as well.
The voices that we're coming into is California Unearthed's Robert Frazier doing his segment.
The Shasta residents, as well as their merchants, to relocate their families and businesses to Reading. Another major blow to the town of Waugh, or Middle Creek, is when their United States Post Office closed down in May of 1906, and this town site became a ghost town with very few residents remaining as well. During the following year, Andy Cusick began advertising his once booming hostelry, the Middle Creek Hotel, for sale through his brokers, Hare and Hill Company. who were based out of Reading. It was offered for sale at a ridiculously low price, according to one local media advertisement. It's not known how much Keswick was offering this hostelry for at that time, especially with the Waugh United States Post Office now defunct. In 1911, there were indications at Middle Creek that the railroad might reopen the closed-down depot at Middle Creek due to the outstanding production of ore from the local miners in the area at that time. Then, in March 1914, the abandoned Middle Creek depot at Middle Creek was demolished.
And this Middle Creek coming in right here.
And the materials from this building were shipped to the town of Hilt in Siskiyou County, California, where the building...
I want to extend a shout out to the property owners for allowing us to be out here today. So thank you.
Would be re-erected later that year for the use of a railroad depot at that location. Years later, in March of 1921, Keswick's Middle Creek Hotel had been reported as an abandoned structure without a tenant. And at the same time and month, Dennis Desmond's warehouse, a 60 by 30 feet structure at Waugh or Middle Creek, was demolished by the Desmond brothers, which was utilized for scrap material by the Reading Feed Company in association with the Desmond siblings. Presently, all that remains of Waugh or Middle Creek today is a marker commemorating the town's history. On the nearby Sacramento River Trail, the historic winery cellars of the Middle Creek Hotel, which was dug into a hillside, these are located on private property and they are gated off. Do not trespass. I repeat, do not trespass. However, they are viewable from the Sacramento River Trail. The water wheel of the historic Middle Creek Hotel, and last but not least, portions of historic Stage Road is viewable along the trail system. Also visible are the ramps and iron mooring pins embedded into the ground on both the west and east side of the Sacramento River on public land. Two large cable support iron mooring pins, which are forged in the same style, exist on the west side of the Sacramento River as well. These are the remaining historic relics at Waugh's Ferry and the Townsite of Waugh at Middle Creek.
And we are here at the Shasta Union Cemetery, also known as the Pioneer Union Cemetery, in the old town of Shasta. And we're at the family plot of Joseph Waugh, the ferryman. Couldn't figure out a better way of ending this video than to shoot the conclusion of it here. And this is it. John R. Waugh died August 4th, 1871, age 74 years. James Waugh died August 4th, 1871, aged 50 years, native of Ireland.
Mary J., wife of Joseph Waugh. She was born August 9th, 1825. Died March 20th, 1901. Native of Ohio. Joseph Waugh, our ferryman. Born March 28th, 1823. Died March 8th, 1892, it looks like. This is the back side of their headstone. And another siding of their headstone. Alright folks, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and thanks for watching. Please follow me, subscribe at Exploring Shasta County History. I'm your host, Jeremy M. Tuggle, and I'll catch you on the next episode.